Grading the performance of the Texas Longhorns versus Vanderbilt. That's the first time in a long time we're going to give out, I think, a couple A's here. You know,
There will
usually
be,
we
yeah.
might get one A. We might get one. I think we're going to get multiple. So we'll start out with Arch Manning, A+. Best game of the year from start to finish. Didn't miss anything on target. There was a couple early, like the one to Ryan Wingo. I thought he threw out a little bit in front of him, but still a pretty solid throw that resulted in a touchdown. A couple of dimes, like he threw to Emmett Mosley, where there was a PI, he almost brought it in. That wasn't called as well, but it was a dime throw. He threw a couple deep outs to DeAndre Moore and Emmett Mosley as well. Read through his progressions really well. Dre McElroy outlined that, started right, came back all the way to his third or fourth read to the left, hit Emmett Mosley over the middle. Phenomenal game from Arch Manning in this game. A+ for the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to call it 14 straight completions because that Hail Mary shouldn't count against the streak. So, like in the 14 straight completions, 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns in the game, 4 touchdowns. Wow, I can't even count. Right, 4 touchdowns in the game passing. Like ultimately for him, again, he probably should have had one more, but we'll get to that. Like he was in complete control of the offense. Like there's no two ways around it. Like he was there when it needed to happen. He was in control. He played fast. He got the ball out quickly. Didn't take unnecessary hits. Like that to me, this was what we wanted to see from Arch Manning for most of the season. If we get this Arch Manning against Florida, that's a win. If we get this Arch Manning against Ohio State, that's a win. Like this is the best game I've seen from Arch Manning. So yeah, A+ feels fair.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we probably beat Ohio State by like 10 plus points in that game. If he plays 70% of what this game was, like, well, there's a real chance we blow him out if he plays this well. So I completely agree. Now let's move on to the running backs. I'm going to give him a B-. I thought they did a pretty good job of creating plays when there were no plays to be created. They didn't really lose any yards in this game. They always fell forward. That's the one thing that I keep seeing from CJ Baxter. I love he's always going to get you an extra yard and a half, 2 yards just by falling forward. I thought Trey Wisner looked pretty good on the ground and in the pass game as well. I thought the pass protection from them was better than it was last week. We saw a couple missteps by them in that. But overall, I think it was a solid, good game. And basically what I expect from this unit here on out is just do the right things well and, fall forward on your run attempts. And I think we'll be fine on the offense side of the ball. We have to stay ahead of the chains, and we did a good job with them this week. So I'm going to give them a B-.
Yeah, a B- feels fair. I think there was a couple of spots where like where CJ Baxter like ran into blockers rather than bounce things out. So there are probably a couple of spots where I think they left a couple of yards on the field, but ultimately like they did what they needed to do. They were solid in pass protection. There weren't any massive blows. I wasn't really frustrated with what I saw. I still think neither of these guys are 100% healthy. I think probably Wisner is getting closer to that. He looks more explosive than he has in the recent weeks, but I definitely know CJ Baxter. There's something going on there. I think he needs to get back to full health before I fully judge him, but I think a B- is probably fair.
Next up, offensive line. And man, I'm teetering here. I'm thinking B+ or A for him. There were a couple, plays I think they should have had back. There were a couple penalties down the stretch that were pretty critical. So I'm going to give him a B+. I still think there's that little touch up that they can do to get to an A, but overall, this is definitely the best game they've had of the season. Maybe the Ohio State game is in, competition with that, but those are definitely the 2 best games far and away for this team. We allowed 0 sacks. We allowed only 1 tackle for loss. Really, really good game for the offensive line. So I'm going to give him a B+ here.
Yeah, if we didn't have that like fourth quarter series of weird false starts, which those are still questionable for me. This would probably be an A+ performance from the offensive line. They were 1 of 1 in short yardage situations. They were only stuffed on 4 runs in the game. Like Texas was really, really effective. I think I might still give them an A-. I think even despite those 2 things, because what your number one job as the offensive line is keep your quarterback upright, and they've struggled to do that all year. And Vanderbilt was averaging nearly 3 sacks a game going into this, and they didn't have a single sack in this game. First time Vanderbilt had been held without a sack this year, and Vanderbilt has some NFL guys on that front. No sacks, 1 tackle for loss. They got the power rushes they needed. They only got stuffed a couple of times. Like this was a very good performance from the offensive line. So probably an A-. It would be an A, a solid A, or an even A+ without those 2 weird penalties. Again, the iffiness of the officiating side.
Yeah. Next up, wide receivers and tight end. I'm gonna go A- here. I think the only thing I didn't like was the Parker Livingston play where he tried to go up with one hand to, catch that ball. But everything else I love. They caught the ball when it was thrown to them. They made a crap ton of yards after catch in this game, made guys miss. I thought the tight ends got involved a little bit more in this game as well. Probably, again, since the Ohio State game. So I think this is an overall an A-. Again, Parker Livingston, you got to go up with two hands over the middle of the field. You can't go up with one. We saw one get intercepted because of that versus Mississippi State. We see one that gets, tipped down, luckily, and goes to incomplete instead of an interception, but he could have caught that football. So I'm going to go A- because of that.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go, I think, an A+ on this. Even in spite of that, Livingston, 258 yards after catch. You had 328 passing yards. 258 came after the catch. That's wide receivers being playmakers. And we said it in our pregame. I said it in a blog. I said it in a podcast. Like, Vanderbilt does not have the horses to run with Texas as wide receivers. Like, there is not a guy in that secondary that can run with any of these dudes. And Sark did a good job of putting them in space, and they rewarded their coach for doing that. The Livingston catch is frustrating. And that's twice that I've seen Livingston do that when he could have. And that arch, that was the perfect throw from Arch that I wanted to see from him. He layered it between levels of the defense, put it right over the linebacker's head, right in front of the safeties. Like, you got to reward your roommate when he does that. Like, you got to go with both hands, got to bring that down. But still, in spite of all of that, no drops, 258 yards after the catch, 3 touchdowns, looked explosive, got into space. I'm giving him an A+.
I think that's fair. Next up, we'll move over to the defensive side of the ball, and we'll start out with the defensive line. A+. I thought they were phenomenal. They stuffed the run. This is how the lifeblood of that team goes with their quarterback in the run game. Stuffed them. We had 6 sacks in this game, which was, I believe, a season high as well. We now lead the country in sacks, which is hard to believe after the first couple weeks where we weren't getting any sacks, but that's because teams getting rid of the ball. Now we're getting into more of teams are willing to play their offense, and we're able to eat when that happens. So A+ from this team. Stuffed the run, got after the quarterback, sacked in the most he's ever been sacked, including his days back in New Mexico State. So A+ from this unit.
Yeah, I have very little to add. You had that last thing where, like, he had never been sacked more than 3 times in a game, and they doubled that. Ethan Burke damn near did that by himself in this game. Like, Ethan Burke was when we talked in the beginning of the season and we were asking, like, who would be the leading sack getter, I honestly thought it would be a guy like Ethan Burke, because Colin Simmons, like we saw in this game, demands so much attention that he opens up things for other people. And we saw the difference in the pass rush from Colin Simmons wasn't on the field, right? They made Diego Pavia speed up his processing. He couldn't wait. He couldn't ad-lib in the backfield because they were beating those tackles like drums all day. And there were a couple of holds that probably should have gotten called that would have made some changes to the way that game ended. But ultimately, like, the defensive line made itself undeniable regardless of all of that.
Yeah, and I think Brad Spence deserves a lot of credit too, because when he's on the field, he's so athletic that he creates a lot of pressure as well. I think we're finally get to see the, dividends from that investment there, because he's played pretty good football the past month. Trey Moore's playing good football. Ethan Burke's playing good football. And obviously Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons are probably playing some of the best football of their career, especially Colin Simmons the past month. He's been insane to watch.
Yeah.
Especially in the run game. He's gotten a lot better in the run game.
It's been beautiful to watch for sure.
Next up, we'll go linebackers, and Anthony Hill again played phenomenal. I thought Leonga Lafau and Ty Anthony Smith played okay, so I'm going to give this unit a B. I thought they were okay, not great. Again, they get picked on a little bit in pass coverage, and that's my worry with this unit, but they're good in the run. Ty Anthony Smith is good running to sideline, but he's got to do a better job when he drops back in, pass coverage. But overall, I'm going to give them a B. I thought they were solid today.
Yeah, this is such a hard grade to give because Vanderbilt's tight ends would be a nightmare for any linebacker unit, but this is a consistent problem with them. And so I think I'm probably going to give them a C on this one, just because most of what Vanderbilt was able to do was in the middle, was underneath in those spaces where the linebackers probably should be picking up his zones. Like, some of that, I think, again, we've seen it multiple times now, not just this year, but dating back to last year, where Texas's linebackers really struggle when they have to be on their heels and playing in a true pass defense role. And so, like, that's going to be something that teams are going to exploit. We're going to see that, over the next several weeks. So I think it's probably a C for me. I did not like what I saw from them.
That's completely fair. Let's move on to the secondary, which I think was the worst unit overall of the game. I'm going to give them a D+. I did think they tackled a lot better than they have the past couple of weeks. That was one concern I had, but there weren't many missed tackles, but a couple of, bust coverages that allowed the big gains. We allowed the middle of the field too wide open. Didn't, close fast enough either to bring those guys down. And yeah, there are injuries back there. Michael Taft got hurt. Jelani McDonald, I believe, didn't play in the most of the second half of this game. And then Malik Muhammad, some weird substitutions, and we'll get to the coaching grade where he's not on the field. So you basically have 3/4 of your starting secondary not on the field, and they looked horrendous when that happened. So I'm going to give him a D+. I'm not going to go complete F because I still think the Florida performance was much worse. I think, honestly, the first 3 quarters of Mississippi State was worse, but this still wasn't a good performance from the secondary.
I mean, I kind of want to go for an F, like simply for the fact that like the reason why Vanderbilt was able to start this furious comeback was a blown coverage in the backside of the defense, right? Like they left Eli Stowers wide freaking open. If there's one guy on the field that you can't leave open, it's Eli Stowers, right? You have to know where that guy is. You have to check him. Like that is it, and that started the rally from Vanderbilt. The secondary, like Warren Roberson had a freaking offsides penalty. Like what is like those are things that you cannot see from that unit. Xavier Filsaime had in that like personal foul. Diego Pavia like sold by like kind of doing, but you've got to let up earlier. Like you did hit him out of bounds. Like that was a sell job from Diego Pavia. But like if you hold up and you don't push him out of bounds, then you're not necessarily in that position. So like I'm pretty frustrated with what I saw from the secondary. I think it'll be better in a couple weeks when Taff is fully back. But when you see like you're missing guy, we saw it against Florida. They're missing Manny Muhammad. They look like trash. They're missing Michael Taff for the last couple of weeks. They look like trash. So like having one guy that can completely ruin your game being out continues to be a red flag for me.
No, that's completely fair. You know what? I'll drop mine down to a D-. You convinced me to drop down to there. But I still think like that Florida game was so bad to watch. And that was, you had Michael Taff, you missed Malik Muhammad. Even last week, you had everyone again except Michael Taff, and I still think just as bad. So that's why it's a little bit worse for me. And hopefully Jelani's okay. Hopefully he can come back for Georgia. I think it was just a concussion, if that's what it was. I don't know. The Malik Muhammad thing, was he dealing with something and that's why he came out? But we can't have 3 of our starting secondary players out and have Jalen Gilbo, Cade Phillips, Xavier Filsaime, and then Derek Williams out there. Like that can't be had this year. So I completely agree. That's something for next year we definitely need to be concerned about because that secondary is pretty thin.
Gotta hit that portal, baby.
Yeah. Next up, Texas special teams. This one's going to be weird for me because we only have 1 punt in this game. Did a decent job on that punt. We missed a kick. It was over 50 yards. Didn't really have any return possibilities because guess what? Vandy saw what has happened the past month and said, yeah, Ryan Niblett's not going to touch this football. They didn't even allow him to touch the football in the kick return game. So you don't recover the onside kick at the end, which could have been disastrous. I don't know where to go with this because I think there was a lot of good plays, a lot of bad plays. I'll go C- here. I'm not going to push it down to a D. I'll go C-. This one is the hardest one to grade for me, though.
It's not hard for me to grade. It is a D for me. Like, and I'm like teetering on an F for that unit specifically based on the lack of recovery on the onside kick. Like 2 guys had their hands on it and neither of them were able to get it down. Like Texas got bailed out by the fact that, Vandy couldn't come up with it inbounds, right? Like that should have been Vandy's ball going the other way. So like that to me is a pretty big failure. I'm not going to ding you too much for missing from 50 plus, but still like you've got to, if Texas is going to use you, and maybe they don't, before we saw Texas go for it later in the game, instead of putting him out there for a 50-plus yarder. Ryan Nibble's not here to save your butt all the time. Special teams grade. So I think we'll go with a D.
That's fair. Yeah, that is true. Like he has elevated that special teams grade quite a bit. And Jack Bomeester has as well. Jack Bomeester's been pretty good. I haven't had any issues with him. It's mostly been Mason Shipley in the kick and then any other returner not named, Ryan Nibble. I will say though, Nick Townsend, good job by him getting that ball, getting it up 15, 20 yards to allow us to, throw the Hail Mary at the end of the half. So that's why there's good, bad. I didn't know what to go with this, so I said C-. But let's move on to the coaching grades. Steve Sarkisian first. I think this is an A- game from him. I'm not going to say A+, but overall, I thought the game plan was really, really good. I thought it was executed well, and I thought they did some things finally that, again, he changed his game plan to suit the Texas offense and not the other way around. So I'm going to give him an A-.
I mean, I don't know what else I would have desired from Steve Sarkisian in this game. Like he's done it, and I say that because he did exactly what I wanted him to do in this game. So like, it feels like an A or an A+ game for me because like we said it pregame, we said it anytime. Like there's not anybody on this team or on the Vanderbilt team that can run with your receivers. Texas spread the ball out. They played like early 2000s spread offense where you have 10 guys getting targeted in that game. Arch looked comfortable. He called a game that suited his players' skills rather than expecting his players to play in a game that doesn't necessarily suit their skills. Like, I was very happy with what they did. He called a game that minimized the offensive line issues. They got a different unit in there. Like, it's an A+ game for me for sure.
I think that's fair. Next up, we'll go with special teams. Jeff Banks. I don't know what to think again here because, again, inconsistency along special teams. There was one where we actually tried to come after the punt instead of setting up the return when they were near midfield. We didn't get there. That's something that we haven't really gotten, any block kicks for a while now that I think about it. On punt-wise, we did block a kick, obviously, versus Mississippi State, but we haven't blocked a punt in a long time. I'm going to go, and the tight ends were a little bit better as well. You have to throw that in there. So I'm going to go C- with him. I thought he did an okay job in this game, this unit.
Yeah, I think a solid C is fair. Like, they were good. Again, we know what Mason Shipley is right now. We know he's generally automatic inside of 49 yards. And then when he gets past 50, it's a little iffy, which is fair, I think, for most kickers. They didn't really have a ton. Like, it feels like a C is fair. The tight ends were better. The hands team, though, I know the ball is wet. I know it's raining, but like, you got to come up with that. So like, that is scary to me.
No, I think that's fair. Yeah, that scared the what out of me. It's interesting that they go with Livingston because I honestly don't think he has the best hands. I would go with Emmett Mosley. I think he's got the best hands out of any of the wide receivers, so that's why I put there. Or Ryan Niblett, your actual punt return guy. But so we'll see if a change is ever made there because he would honestly the first one. I think he knocked it down to the ground and then smothered it. I don't think he caught it like right away. So yeah, that's going to be interesting if they decide to go with someone different there. Let's go with defense. So if you would have told me after the first half, I would have given this unit or Pete Kwiatkowski an A because he let up a little bit in the second half. And yes, do I think you should probably let up when you're up by 24 points? Fine. But what happens when you do that. We've seen it time in, time out. Like, we don't play that well. So I'm going to give him a C in this game. I'm not going to give him a C-, C+. I think it's just an overall average game from him defensively. I think he had a really good first, 3 quarters. The fourth quarter was just an F performance, so it knocked it down to a C for me.
Yeah, if you consider like each quarter being 25% of a 100-point scale, like Pete Kwiatkowski got a 75, so he got a C, right? Like that's where I'm at. The first 3 quarters of that game were incredible, and then Texas was nowhere to be found in the fourth quarter. I don't know how a defense is so bad at playing prevent coverage. I just don't get it. Like, giving up a 4th and 16, right? Like, I don't know what that is. Like, it's just very frustrating for me to see like a team be so bad, and I think part of it is it goes against the nature of a lot of the athletes they recruit. Like, these guys are killers. They are headhunters. They are blood in the water. I'm going to kill somebody. And you're going to ask me to like play off the ball and play back. Like, that's not what a lot of these guys feel comfortable doing. It's not what you coach them to do for most of the week. So asking them to completely shift, I'm honestly, I'm not fine with taking the foot off the gas. Like, I want you to continue to kill these guys. Like, don't put guys in position to get hurt, but keep your guys, keep them off schedule. Diego Pavia, when you give him time, is going to create. That's what he does. So like, I don't love taking your foot off the gas there, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, and then if you're going to do that, you have to at least coach up your players to execute it well, and we don't execute it well when that happens. We've seen it time in, time out. Like you said, the Ohio State game with Travion Henderson, this game where Jalen Gilbo just completely blows his assignment and Eli Stowers is running wide open down the field. The 4th and 19 where you're playing so far off that, they catch it at 16 yards and then they're able to run for another 4 to 5 yards because you're so far off that it takes you a while to get there. And then he's able to fight for a yard and have to get that first down. So yeah, I completely agree. And you have to put your best players on the field. Again, I do not understand why Malik Muhammad is off the field and you have Jalen Gilbo and Cade Phillips out there. You take your best, secondary player off the field. You take Colin Simmons off the field late in the game. You have to have your best personnel on 3rd and 4th down in those situations. And we did not do that for whatever reason.
Yep. It was inexcusable.
But Texas does come away with the win 34-31, and it is on to Georgia. So again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. We are here every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time and every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. It's Gerald and I every Monday, and it's Brandon and Josh every Tuesday. We really appreciate you guys doing that. Again, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. And as always, hook 'em.
Hook 'em.